When ChatGPT came on the scene in the fall of 2022, I was thrown off about what this might mean for me. I remember thinking, what is the purpose of me as an English teacher if AI can do my job? I quickly realized that these AI programs lack an education, and its writing was all the proof I needed to prove my theory correct. Yet, there was a push to incorporate AI into the workplace and in classrooms. So, how did I, as an educator, come to terms with allowing AI to have a place in my classroom? Well, I didn't, at least not at first. During my time with the Scholarship of Excellence in Teaching Fellowship at Montgomery College, I was given the book Teaching with AI by Jose Bowen and C. Edward Watson. Bowen and Watson challenged my thinking of what AI was and started making me realize that it could work for me like an assistant would. Hesitantly, I decided to dip my toe into the world of AI in the workplace. My hope for this experiment was to find more time for grading papers and working with students. I also wondered if there was a way I could use AI to help me measure students' understanding of the material during the lectures. Sometimes I don't realize a student is lost until I get their essays. This doesn't happen a lot, but maybe it could catch those few who just don't get the material. As I was preparing for the fall semester, I began my experiment of using AI. I started with using a website called Gamma that would redesign my PowerPoints to be more aesthetically appealing. When I uploaded my original PowerPoint, I was forced to cut it down or subscribe for more access. I decided to go all in and get the full access to the program. However, as I started converting my PowerPoints, there was another option to change the wording to be more concise. Again, I debated the merits of doing this, but ultimately decided that if I was really going to give this experiment a chance, I had to just do it, just go for it. So the changes weren't horrible, and I had the knowledge to clarify any misunderstandings that might arise from these changes that I made in my PowerPoint, so that's how I justified it. Next, I used Claude AI, which is an AI website for educators, to see if my assignments were aligned with course objectives. The AI programs confirmed that they were good on that front, which of course they were. Then I thought, hey, what if I could check to see if my assignments were inclusive to my students? So I ran it through the software and it gave me good feedback, suggesting I add a small phrase here or rewrite a sentence there. And I remember thinking to myself, oh, this is great. I'm going to continue using this. So when the semester started, I let my students know that I was going to start using AI in the classroom more as a tool for me to help teach them. When it came to them using AI, I gave them very little room. I still was coming to terms with it myself, and I had yet to prove that it was beneficial to students. However, I explained that if they were struggling with coming up with ideas, they could use AI for idea generation. But the writing had to be their original work. If they used AI for any part of their essay, such as idea generation or edits, they needed to disclose that to me. I explained that they should think of AI as a tool to help them, but to be careful that it doesn't take over their entire project. So, feeling good about the improvements so far to my course, I started using Claude AI and ChatGPT more. During the semester, I turned to them to create worksheets, class activities, and even put together a new slide deck for me. As I became more comfortable using these programs, I started using them during impromptu moments in the class, such as asking for more examples of logical fallacies. It was helpful, but sometimes the examples weren't really that great. When introducing a new concept, I started uploading my PowerPoint and asked it to provide discussion questions for each slide. I thought this might be a good way to gauge student understanding as I was moving through the lesson. I'd review the suggestions that AI provided me and take the ones I liked. Feeling emboldened by the newly christened AI teaching assistant, I asked it to review my edits of student essays and provide written feedback for each essay. I uploaded the rubric so that it had correct parameters to work within. If I agreed with it, I'd post it on the assignment along with my annotations. Later in the semester, I asked my students what they still felt unsure about when it came to grammar. They gave me a very detailed list, which I, in turn, gave to my AI teaching assistant, Mr. AI, pronouns it, its. I asked it to create a textbook-style explanation of all these grammar points and include examples. Then I asked it to make it to be a fill-in-the-blank worksheet. By this point, I was so deep into using AI that I was confident of the product it gave me. I was also grateful that I didn't have to do the research to compile this lesson. Time saved, I thought. I quickly looked over it and printed off copies for my students. Then I moved on to grading papers. During the next class, I handed out the worksheets and explained that today we would be learning everything they ever wanted to know about grammar. We started off good. Using the document projector, I went through each question, explaining the finer details of the grammar discussion. But midway through the worksheet, one of the examples gave me a pause. After I reread it a few times, I turned to my class and explained what I just realized. AI did me dirty. One of the examples was incorrect, and that is unacceptable. I explained my mistake. When using AI, you need to be an editor, scouring each page looking for mistakes, because there will be some. In fact, there might be many. Now, this wasn't the first time AI made a mistake, but it was the first time it happened in front of students. The problem was I started using it so much that I trusted it. I was lured into a false sense of security with AI. When I printed off those worksheets a few days earlier, I assumed all was good. This was just more than one mistake that slipped through the cracks. Looking back over the semester, there were signs that all was not well. By the end of the semester, I was exhausted by my teaching assistant, Mr. AI. What was supposed to be a time-saving experiment ended up consuming hours of much-needed time. Sometimes the websites would crash in the middle of a project, and I would have to start over on another AI site. But this site wasn't understanding the prompts, or its version of the answer had flaws I needed to fix. When I asked it to give me feedback on a student's papers based off of my annotations in the rubric, it would create incorrect responses about the paper. It might say that they did something well, when in fact they did not. I ended up spending a lot of time reviewing Mr. AI's feedback to ensure correct information was being given out. More time wasted. Additionally, this semester, I saw little improvement from many of my students. Typically, you see student essays improve over the course of the semester. They read the feedback, and in the next essay, they make sure not to make that mistake again. At first, I couldn't figure out what was causing this phenomenon because they would continue to make those same mistakes over and over again. It wasn't until a few students said that they appreciated my feedback, which surprised me because they weren't making improvements. So I went back to their paper to see what I had said. What I realized was that students only read the AI comments, which always said something positive. They would hold on to the positive and skip over the rest. Many didn't bother reading my annotations within the essay itself. Frankly, I'm not surprised by this. AI writing is bland at best. I'm sure any of the constructive criticism it gave was unmemorable. Remember those slides I asked Mr. AI to redesign before class started? I ended up scrapping them in the middle of the lecture early on in the semester. I went back to my original slides. Why? They were pretty, but they did not help me teach. The rewrites on the slides lacked the directness the students needed. They were too vague. It also wasn't natural for me to teach off of because they weren't my words. At the end of the semester, I asked my students to fill out a detailed questionnaire about the usage of AI in the classroom. I showed them every time I used it so they could judge it appropriately. I wanted to know if they felt that the AI enhancements to the course helped or hindered their learning experience. The responses surprised me because they were all over the place. So I looked a little deeper to see what specifically helped them, and it was mainly the things that I brought to the classroom: creating a community, learning from peers, activities I developed or learned from my schooling on how to teach. But none of it was AI. When asked about using AI as a tool to help them improve their writing, one student said, "I avoided using AI. I don't want to use AI when it comes to writing assignments because I know I can come up with good ideas myself and that there are resources at my college that are more helpful to me than AI." Another student commented, "It didn't feel right using it. I hated the concept of using AI for schoolwork." And I have to agree with my students. School is not the place to use AI. For many students, this will be their last time spent receiving a formal education. This is the place where their minds need to be stretched, not curtailed for a shortcut that does the thinking for them. As an educator, it was a waste of precious time. Using AI in the classroom does not add value, but rather tarnishes good teaching. Many of us teachers spent years learning our subject area. We've become not only experts in our field, but experts in creating the next generation of experts. There are no shortcuts to greatness. It's a hot take, but after my semester experimenting with AI, I can confidently say that AI does not belong in the classroom. Thank you.